So anyway, welcome everyone to Flash Club, where every Thursday at 5 p.m. my time, 8 p.m. probably your time, we meet to go over some cool words on a page, and then we write some words on a page. It is going to be a fun one. Okay. Oh, tonight we're reading. What was that?
I said it's a good intro.
Yeah.
Flash
We should
Club.
probably just copy and paste it to the beginning of every one that we do. Tonight we're reading Mold of the Earth by Bolesław Prus. Bolesław Prus. That's what we're going to say. Translated by Christopher Kasparek. And published on Flash Fiction Online. And I think I'd like to preface this by saying that in Fractured Lit, the literary magazine, Fractured Lit on fracturedlit.com, there is a contest happening from the 16th of this month until the 19th of April called Ghost, Fable, and Fairy Tales. And it is specifically for flash fiction, so under 1,000 words. And I found this story, Mold of the Earth, in my search for something that might speak to that contest. So they're kind of hand in hand today is what I'm saying. We're going to do some writing that is for that contest after we read this lovely piece. Do you both have the piece on your person?
I do.
Okay, so I think, Bill, if you're up to it, you can start since you researched how to say it.
Let's go.
Then, we'll do
Bill is
it.
our language expert tonight.
Yes, always.
Thank you, Bill.
That's why he's here. He's our in-house language expert. So, Bill, I'll have you read up until the quote, "these splotches," and then I'll have you read until green background. So, or no, until the rest of that. I'm trying to do too much. Let's just read, guys. We got this.
Read.
All right,
When I stop, somebody else start.
Exactly. Okay. We'll popcorn it.
We'll just
go.
All right.
Mold of the Earth. One time I happened to be in Malawi with a certain botanist. We were seating ourselves by the Temple of Sibyl on a bench next to a boulder grown over with mosses or molds, which my learned companion had been studying for several years. I asked what he found of interest in examining the irregular splotches of beige, gray, green, yellow, or red. He looked at me distrustfully, but persuaded that he had before him an uninitiated person, he proceeded to explain.
These splotches that you see are not inanimate dirt, but collections of living beings. Invisible to the naked eye, they are born, carry out movements that are imperceptible to us, enter into matrimonial bonds, produce offspring, and finally die. More remarkably, they form, as it were, societies, which you see here in the form of the variously colored splotches. They cultivate the ground beneath them for the next generations. They proliferate, colonize empty places, even fight each other. This gray splotch, large as the palm of a person's hand, was 2 years ago no larger than a penny. This tiny gray spot a year ago didn't exist and comes from the great splotch that occupies the top of the boulder.
These two again, the yellow and the red, are fighting. At one time, the yellow was the larger, but slowly its neighbor had displaced it. And look at the green one, how its grizzled neighbor is making inroads into it. How many gray streaks, spots, clumps can be seen against the green background? A bit as among people, I interjected. Well, no, replied the botanist. These societies lack language, art, learning, consciousness, feeling. In a word, they lack souls and hearts, which we human beings possess. Here, everything happens blindly, mechanically, without sympathies and without antipathies. A few years later, I found myself beside that same boulder at night, and by the light of the moon regarded the changes that had taken place in the forms and sizes of the various molds. Suddenly, someone nudged me. It was my botanist. I asked him to have a seat, but he stepped before me in such a way as to hide the moon and whispered something voicelessly. The temple of the Sibyl, the bench, and the boulder vanished. I sensed about me a faint luminosity and an immense void. And when I turned my head to the side, I saw something like a schoolroom globe that shone with a faint light, as large as the boulder beside which we had been a moment before. The globe slowly revolved, showing successive new areas. There was the Asian landmass with the little peninsula of Europe. There was Africa, the two Americas. You could go, Bill.
Looking intently, I made out the inhabited lands, the same kinds of splotches, beige, gray, green, yellow, and red, as the boulder. They, they comprised myriads of vanishingly small points, ostensibly motionless, actually moving very lazily. An individual point moved at most by a 2-minute arc in an hour, and that not in a straight line, but as it were oscillating about its own center of motion. The points joined, separated, vanished, came to the surface of the globe, but all these things did not merit particular attention. What was of consequence was the movements of entire splotches, which diminished or grew, showed up in new places, infiltrated or displaced one another. The globe, meanwhile, kept making its rounds and seemed to me to execute hundreds of thousands of revolutions. Is that supposed to be the history of mankind? I asked the botanist standing beside me. He nodded in confirmation. All right, but where are the arts, knowledge? He smiled sadly. Where's consciousness, love, hate, longing? Ha ha ha, he laughed softly. In short, where are the human souls and hearts? Here? Ha ha ha. His demeanor offended me. Who are you? I asked. Just then I found myself back in the garden beside the boulder, whose shapeless splotches swam in the moonlight. My companion had vanished, but now I knew him by his mockery and melancholy.
Yeah.
Well done, well done. Okay, so what are our thoughts right off the bat? How are we feeling about this piece?
Okay, so a couple of things I just wanted to notice. Like when I go through, I like to just always like acknowledge one, it's first person.
Mm-hmm.
It's told from today, but it has happened in the past, just in terms of a frame. And that there were, speaking of time, there's a number of time jumps.
Yeah.
That I'll just point out. The time jump just is in the very first sentence. One time, I happen to be in Pullway, and then the next one is a few years later, and then when he's in the temple of Sibyl, there is time moving very quickly because he's in kind of a dream state where time is moving quickly. He's watching time move quickly, and then he comes back to his present. So anyway, that was all. I thought that was a really interesting piece of part of Mold of the Earth.
Yeah. Do we think this is flash fiction?
Yes.
Okay. Why?
I will posit that it is flash fiction because I noticed that there's a hinge. There is an arc that our main character changes from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
And our understanding changes and the reader's understanding changes from beginning to end.
Yeah, there's an arc of story there.
Mm-hmm.
And then also it's focused in on one single moment, whether the time shifts or, you know, perception changes more than anything. And then also, did I already say it's under 1,000 words? So that helps. And then, yeah, it reverts instead of resolves, but there is an arc still. Those were the things I noticed.
Also, Flash Fiction Online published it as well.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Well, it's funny because I started to think about it. I was like, well, this was like in the 1800s. Is flash fiction even a thing? And then I looked at it as technically an allegory, is what like it's defined as. But then I was like, but wait, what about the big stamp on the top right corner? What about the website I found this on? Uh,
Right. I think it counts.
yeah. Okay, cool. Well, we confirmed that Flash Fiction Online knows what they're talking about. Good job, guys.
Good job, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we think the hinge is? What do you think, Nina?
Well, I think it's that the temple of Sybil, the bench and boulder vanished.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because without that moment, we wouldn't have gone into the second part of the story. And there would
Because
be
reality starts to dissolve and go away, right?
Mhm.
Because the first part is like all actually happening, and then after the hinge, it's all we're not really sure where it's happening.
Mhm.
I also did you have any other thought of where the hinge was, Bill, or is that what you thought too?
No, that's what I was going to say the hinge was. And I really like this reverbs instead of resolves. I don't think I've ever heard that before, but I like that.
Mhm.
Mine too.
So while we're reading it, I tried to do this, find the flash. So that's what I was trying to do.
Did you find it?
I'm like, I thought I found it in that last line, but now I'm second guessing myself.
I think this is where time is maybe our enemy, in the sense that this was written this was written so long ago that like the modern conception of Flash might not be a totally clean overlay.
Mhm.
But I do think there are a couple. It's not a concise Flash.
Oh. But I
I
would
think
say that I agree. If I were to choose a line, it would be the last line for me.
now I knew him by mockery and melancholy. You didn't think it was I thought it was the laughing, the 3 lines of just laughing at him.
Interesting.
Like, this is what I struggled with, because I was like, "What is sticking with me?" And so that last line kind of summarizes it, but those 3 lines of him laughing, first sadly, then softly, then, like, straight out mockery, which Bill did a great job reenacting.
Yeah.
Um um, but it was, it was something really interesting to think about, like,
Well,
what
and
is.
also to go on a little tangent, just a small one. Jason shared with me an article months ago about this person who had been doing research on whether or not history should be looked to when we are um, comparing the emotions of now with the emotions of then, essentially because we perceived like fear and anger and love and joy all in very different ways in the 18th century than we did now. And I felt like I saw that in the end of this piece. Like his demeanor offended me, just felt weird. That sentence felt weird to me. And even when Bill said it, Bill kind of got caught up on the word, yeah, offended me. I was like, wait, what? And then, yeah, him smiling sadly and laughing softly, because something about it felt much harsher than it was being conveyed. And I don't know if that happens to be just because of the history of language and how it's evolved, or if maybe we're supposed to feel. I don't know. I want to know your guys' thoughts because it feels kind of eerie, but I don't know if that's how it was supposed to be felt.
Well, I've heard that theory that you mentioned of Jason, I've
Yeah.
heard that elsewhere too. My friend Bill Stockman, who lives around the corner, introduced me to that idea. So that there is like an emotional tone to this, that I try to put my head in this time space of maybe a more proper, stuffy sort of time space, like that, laughing would be very offensive.
Mhm.
This was, um, yeah,
Yes, a lot more saving face in that
Yeah.
time, right?
yeah,
Um, right. And you would say something like that you were offended. You offend me, sir.
Yeah.
and then challenge each other to a duel.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm. Right.
Okay,
But we do have resonance, whether we necessarily
yeah.
I'm not sure whether we agree on it or not. I think there is that resonance of like the time shift that the author experiences, or that the narrator experiences, um, and then that feeling of discomfort, like almost like coming out of a dream. When you've had a bad dream and you're just like, and you wake up and you're like annoyed because you had
What
a dream
was
about your partner and they were mean to you and you're mad at
Yeah.
them in real life, kind of a thing. Um, and you can't shake it. That feeling you can't shake. Um, but it turns out our narrator was right all along with that little a bit as among people. Maybe that's a hinge.
Mhm. I know I
Yeah.
had 3 different places for a hinge. I had, the transition of time, so a temporal hinge, and then the temple of the Sibyl, the bench, and the boulder vanished, which is perceptual, and then I had the metaphoric hinge
Hmm.
of looking intently, I made out on the inhabited lands the same kinds of splotches. So it's like when the rock becomes the globe, essentially. So the metaphor inserts itself.
Mm.
But there are probably like 7 other hinges too, which is what you were kind of get to. There's
Yeah.
another hinge.
There's probably
Yeah.
some hidden cultural Polish 1912 cultural something we're missing.
Well, I looked up the Temple of Sibyl, um, and it was built in 1801, so it's not super old, but it was by the Tsarina, and I don't know her name, sorry. Um, but it's the Temple of Memory is what it's referred to in Polish, and it's to house Polish and Lithuanian history and memorabilia.
Oh,
Hmm.
Which also speaks to like the colonies, the colonization. I felt like I was going into like a museum, where you would see a video, you would see a movie in in hyper speed
Right.
mhm.
of something happening, of like land masses shifting and moving, plates, the tectonic plates, and then all of a sudden, oh, here we are in present time.
Yeah.
So it did kind of have that feeling to me because of that.
Well, and also Sybil is a prophet, right? I was thinking that the prophet disappearing and the botanist taking the place was also kind of telling that there was something about learning from history and looking over the passing of time and what we're doing to each other as a culture and society. Because I love that I'll read something and I have no idea what Sybil is or the Temple of Sybil or any of this stuff, and it still like tells you something. You still get something out of it, and then you look up those, like that story that we read where they're all put into space. What was that, Nina? And they're all their dead bodies are actually the
Tartarus.
Tartarus.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Five views of the planet
yeah,
Tartarus. Is that
yeah,
5, 7? I
5.
don't know.
yeah.
That's it.
Thanks. Mm,
That's delightful story.
yeah. So title
So
mold of Earth.
yeah, I was gonna ask about that too. How the title um influences the story.
I mean, do
I
you
mean,
think it's like
it works two ways. It works at the beginning when it's just the actual realistic portion of the story, and then when it gets surreal, it's still working because of the allegory.
Yeah.
It's a smart title.
We are the mold.
right?
Yeah.
People are mold.
Yeah.
Um,
Such an uplifting piece. I bring really uplifting pieces.
So good.
people are mold.
Okay, well, so the mold, because I do want to focus on this, because last week when you weren't here, Bill, because we're not cool enough for you, um, we we read Death of a Moth, right? And that was like us focusing really narrowly onto a little moth in a window pane, and I feel like he does the same thing here with the moths, especially in those 4 paragraphs of just, um, explaining their color and what they're doing and how they work within each other, and I was just wondering why we thought why moths?
Who wrote the yellow wallpaper? Charlotte, somebody?
I almost brought that, yeah. I almost had us get an excerpt. Yeah, Charlotte Perkins Gilman.
Charlotte Perkins Gilman, yeah. It reminded me a little bit of the yellow wallpaper where she's watching the mold on it and
Mhm.
it's growing. It's just like one of those very slow down moments. Like he's kind of stopping time in one way. Like that's another interesting part about time is like that like there's that time stoppage of of the observational aspect of what he's doing with this mold. Like that he's observing the botanist is observing mold for years at a time, which is well, let me tell you what happened. It's like me. I could tell you about what happens at my bird feeder. You guys
Mhm.
never would have believed it. Um, but it's really funny that he makes a narrative out of the mold colonies.
Well, it's also interesting because I just said that this is like the death of a moth, but it's also like Touch Tank because it's someone who's an expert in something that's focusing in on one thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So that's obviously a telltale sign of flash fiction.
Well, it's a craft
It's proven.
a
Yeah.
craft aspect, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I love it.
Um, I'm curious because I wanted to try to link this to Fractured Licks contest. Do we see any kind of ghost story or fable or fairy tale elements within this piece, whether it was intentional on his part or not?
It's certainly the botanist kind of gets this ghosty feel when
Mhm.
things get surreal. And I mean, at the end, he's still, this his friend, the botanist, who he knows at the beginning, at the end, he's asking, "Who are you?"
Mhm.
Right, because the botanist morphs. He's
Yeah.
there, he isn't, and then he's kind of like a specter, and then he laughs at him,
Yeah.
but doesn't ever answer his questions.
And then also this part in the middle where suddenly someone nudged me. It was my botanist. I asked him to have a seat, but he stepped before me in such a way as to hide the moon and whispered something voicelessly. Like it gets like, who is this character? Yeah, is this character even real?
Yeah.
Um, I also looked up the architecture of fairy tales, and it's interesting because this almost like matches with it perfectly. Um, this idea that our narrator is meeting a guide, so the botanist is our guide, and then the narrator's world shifts, and then a truth is revealed, and then the guide disappears. So it's like a fairy tale in that regard without like all the bells and whistles that we usually see come with a fairy tale, which I think is cool for this piece in connection to that this contest prompt because the contest wants fairy tales. Obviously, that's the name of the freaking contest, but it wants it in like an unconventional way. And this piece, whether or not it tried to be, is kind of an unconventional fairy tale.
The botanist kind of reminded me of Van Helsing in Dracula, because like he knows everything. He's like
Huh?
this all-knowing. Remember how Van Helsing would like disappear and then he would come back and tell you everything that you needed to know. Yeah.
So good.
That he's the one, right? Am I remembering them? Okay. That was a funny one. But yeah, I like that idea of the guide. So how else is it a fairy tale? I guess there's transformation.
Mhm.
Um, there's a lot of time compression,
Yeah.
and he was whisked away to the castle in the clouds.
Mhm. A lot of symbolism
Mm-hmm.
and cosmic reframing.
Yeah. Oh, good
I was
one.
telling Bill before we started that um, I didn't write anything today, but I did do like way too much research and analysis of this little story. And I was telling Jason I was over prepared, and he was like, "Can't you just do it over multiple classes?" And I was like, "No, I have 30 minutes to cram it all in."
And no slides.
No slides. Ready to
I mean,
Huh?
so can we talk for a minute just about the fact that it was like he was right? Like his interjection in the first third, the ends of the first third of it where he says a bit as among people, and then the guide says, "No, no, not at all. You're totally wrong."
But then
But then ultimately it's as though he was exactly right, that we are no different than mold.
I
And
had that question. I was like, "Why is that? That doesn't feel resolved at all."
yeah.
It
So
reverberates.
it was reverberate. What do you mean by that, Bill? Like,
I
how does it
mean,
reverberate for you?
it isn't resolved. It's I can't point to anything in the text to say, see, in this line, the mold is like the people or isn't like the people.
Mhm.
It's just this. It's that skirt that's blue or gold or whatever. It's like it's how does it sit with you?
Yeah. It's a I can't think of the word.
So a big critique of some of mine while you're thinking, Leah, a big critique that I've had of my work is the unresolved ending, that what I often need is one more beat to indicate the pattern for closure. So it's not necessarily, it can still be ambiguous. You still don't like put a package you neatly squared away. But the idea being that last one of those last lines, in addition to the image, is the repetition of a pattern. So I was
I
thinking, this might be interesting if he had a beat where he returned to the mold, or he recognized again that the mold was growing again in another way, like one mold had taken over another mold.
Yeah.
Therefore reinforcing that pattern that maybe didn't have closure, but so that the reader would be like, yeah, now I'm sure that this is what was being said.
Who's critiquing your work? I want their names.
I know. I could give you some names.
Codex. Um, that's what it was for me. Um,
I see what you're
it didn't
saying.
actually wrap up at all. It's too ambiguous.
It is,
But yeah,
yeah.
exactly, Nina. You said that very well.
So that one more beat. That's kind of like a craft aspect that I'm working on, is that one more beat.
Is that a critique you have of this piece too?
That's a critique I have of this piece. I mean, I think it's fine the way it is because I definitely have that echo because it is unresolved. You have to think, right? And ambiguity, I think, is important. I know, like, people are like, "Oh, the MFA." I read a critique yesterday of MFA language and ambiguous ending, and how we should people who write ambiguous endings. It's kind of unfair to the reader, and it's not how modern writing is. And I was like, okay, sure. Not everything can be a closed loop, and much of life isn't a closed loop. And
Exactly.
so that's my argument for sticking with an ambiguous ending. But I do understand the need for that extra bit of repetition at the end. So we understand what direction the main character is moving in.
Yeah, we're at least establishing something.
Right.
Uh, and it's giving you an image to linger on, to sit with.
Yeah.
And it's the original image, but it's with something new printed on it so that you can sit with a new idea.
Hmm.
And it's this piece is more existential than most modern flash fiction, I think, is what we're getting at too.
Hmm.
You guys want to do some writing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you got for us, Leah?
So we are going to do a three-parter. Um, this first one, actually, maybe it'll be a four-parter. It'll be a four-parter. We're gonna kind of do a little bit of what we've done the last couple of weeks, but all put together. So we're gonna let's do 3 minutes, and we're gonna write out a list of objects, just like really mundane, not dramatic, just ordinary, available, like moss on a rock, or a cracked mug, or a half-burned candle, or leftovers, Nina. Um, and that's it. That's what we're gonna do for 3 minutes. Does that sound good?
So,
Just a list of mundane objects.
with something interesting about them,
Potentially, yeah.
potentially. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Interesting mundane.
Yes. Okay. Okay. I got lost in my thoughts. I didn't mess up. Okay. Does anybody have any that they love that they want to share? Or should we just move on to number 2?
And I don't love or hate any of mine, really. I don't. Right now, they're just things. They're just there.
Well, you guys did it perfectly then. Super mundane. Okay.
Super mundane.
Okay, so let's do 5 minutes this time for step 2, which is just observing at least, just choose one. Choose your favorite of all the ones you hate. And and sit with it for 5 minutes, observe. No symbolism, no metaphor, just texture, color, temperature, weight, how the light hits it, etc. You're muted, Nina. We're doing ekphrastic. Is that what you said? Yes. Ekphrastic part 1. That's what we're doing. So we'll come back at 42. Cool. Okay. I went over a minute because I needed to refine my next step because I realized it was dumb. Um, so now we're going to take this object that we've given life, and we're going to answer at least one of these questions that I'm going to give you, and I'm going to write them down in the chat too. So, what unseen presence lives within this object? That could be one of the questions you answer. What does this object know that other characters do not? What history clings to the object? If the object carries a message, what is it trying to say? What has already changed because of the object, even if no one has named it outright? Or what tension or truth does the object hold in its center? Some of those are kind of the same. I went a little overboard, sorry. But if you can't tell, what we're doing is we're trying to find the ghost or the fairy tale within the object. So that's what we're going to think about just by answering these questions. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you have access to the chat so you can read the questions? Or should I send them to you elsewhere?
Yeah, I can see the chat.
Just want to
It's like 1/16 of an inch.
But it works.
But it works.
But it works. Let me put it in there. Uh,
So who is the unseen presence? What history or message does this object carry? And what has changed, or how has it changed, or
yeah, essentially, yeah.
or what changes? Either
Yeah,
the person.
within this object.
Mm. Okay.
And we'll do 4 minutes answering one or more of those questions about your object. And then we'll have one more step after that.
Okay.
Okay.
I love all these steps.
Yeah. Go.
Okay.
Okay. I'm curious what your guys' objects are. I just want to know real quick.
Purple dog collar.
Ooh,
Mine is a dirt-covered popsicle stick from the garden. There's poppies on one side, dill on the other.
nice. Mine is this. It's a piece of driftwood.
Driftwood?
Yeah. And I smelled it, and I was worried that you'd be able to see me smelling it, but you didn't. But now you know. Anyway, okay, so this last step is gonna be having your narrator interact with the object. So either speaking to the object or is being told about the object or is like physically interacting with it. But you're gonna start with observation and then you're going to have it revealed to your narrator in some way what the answer to those questions were. Does that make sense? Should I reword it?
Wait,
Just say
repeat.
it one more time.
So your narrator will interact with the object, and then through that interaction, the answer to your questions will be revealed. So the second part. So the first part is them interacting with it, and the second part is something is revealed through that interaction.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I haven't.
I got to come up with a narrator, but it makes sense.
Yeah. I haven't been following the rules very well, but I'm going to do my best.
I don't want you to ever follow the rules when I give prompts.
Okay.
This is flash fiction. Everything's ambiguous, okay?
Okay. I'm going to get some answers.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. I'm going to stop us there because I want to talk a little bit. How are we feeling?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mine took a turn. I didn't really necessarily have like a narrator. I didn't have a character. I had an eye. So the gardener appeared, but then it was just hard for me to create a ghost out of a gardener, and then everything just started to get really absurd really fast. So it was more like an Alice Carroll tea party than
That sounds fun.
it just got it just like it got silly all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absurd.
Mine's
How about you?
absurd too. I have a talking dog. Lucy's purple collars, more of a manacle, and when it comes off, she's able to speak, and it's kind of played off this royal purple color too. So I think there's some backstory with her.
Cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to. I realized there were a couple things I should have done, like helping you with a narrator, but also I wanted to read from the Fractured Lit prompt essentially because I really love what she says. She says, "Bring me home with you. Show me your ghosts in your mother's broken tea set, your father's worn wallet, your sister's half-eaten candy necklace. Or better yet, teach me the fables and fairy tales of your childhood, the ones that warned me to never stray from the path, that advised me to listen to my elders, that preached to me never trust a stranger. Send me into the dark with only a winking flashlight, a fluttering torch, a dying smartphone. Give me fear, give me love. Keep me reading and rereading your labyrinth of sentences, of images, flashy lengths of strings to find my way." So I think you're both doing that. Like, you're both taking something that is modern and ours, and you're like, spinning it out into something surreal and strange. So you did what I was intending you to do.
Okay. When
We
is
wrote something.
what's the date on this?
April
April 19th.
19th. Yeah, you've got time.
You know,
If you want to.
you can send up to two stories for the reading fee.
Mhm. Yeah, it's
Oh,
$20. It's
$20
only
for two.
20. Yeah,
okay. Are we doing this?
I'm
Yeah, I
doing it.
think so.
Yeah, Bill's
I
doing
think
his
I'm gonna
strongman, hopefully.
I think I'm gonna work my straw man up a little bit. Since I had that excellent critique,
Hopefully that was helpful.
totally helpful. I'm trying to plug it here to the masses. How if somebody wanted their piece critiqued, what would they do if they wanted to have a live critique?
Um,
You would go to any of our newsletters, and on the bottom of our posts, there's a link, um, which is. Did you put that in your last one, Nina?
I don't think so.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Well, I'm going to put it in the chat right now. It's
It was very helpful. I'm not being facetious at all. It was actually kind of a fun process for somebody who's not like doesn't have an MFA and hasn't sat through workshops and stuff. For me, it was like really very helpful and interesting process.
Yeah. So for Sherry and Clancy and let's see, who is this? Something and salmon, love and
love,
something.
politics, and salmon.
Love, politics, and salmon. I mean, I'm all about the love and the salmon. Um, so we have crossover in our Venn diagram. But we invite people who have flash fiction. If they'd like it critiqued, we invite them to send it in, and then we can choose it if it fits with what we are working on for our craft pieces for our essays. So then we will critique it live, and we will let you know and invite you.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Super
the
fun.
piece is it's a lot better since then.
cool.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Bill, for the reminder.
And
And
plug.
yeah,
Yep.
and Leah, thank you for running us through this. It was that was an interesting piece to read. Um, certainly for the language, and then also for that for that temporal change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Leah.
Yeah, thank you, you guys, for doing it with me.
Okay, so Bill, Leah is gone next week.
Okay.
I'll be in Palm Springs.
She's going to be in
Enjoying
Palm
it.
Springs, so it's going to be you and me if you're here. Are you here next week?
I am here. Let's do it.
Okay. All right, so then we will see you next week.
All righty.
Okay.
Have fun in Palm Springs. Thanks, Leah.
Thank you. Toodles.
Thanks, Leah. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. How do we shut it off? Here.